where do we stand about Lamar Jackson this year as a football player, as a quarterback? Has he developed? Has he regressed? Do you think they should be offering him a big contract? And do they should they be extending? Have they picked up his 5th-year option yet or not? Do you know that?
This is the 4th year, so I'm going to assume that they did. I'm not sure, but he only rushed for 2 touchdowns this year.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, I got the numbers in front of me here. He rushed for 767 yards, 2 touchdowns.
So his output this year is kind of not the best. It's kind of gross, truthfully.
It is, yeah. I mean, he has missed a lot of time, which hasn't helped.
But he played 12 games, though. I mean, 12 games and 18 touchdowns, that doesn't equate.
No, it doesn't. And, I'm pretty sure they did pick up his 5th-year option. I have to think that they definitely should not give him a long-term contract yet. They should make him go out and prove that he is continuing to develop, because by his standards, he's had a bit of a down year this year. I mean, he threw career high in interceptions this year, career low in passing touchdowns, and he's just one of those players that's just kind of like, he's got all the talent, and as a runner, and that's what the Ravens are trying to do with their offense. They're a run first team. They got a great rushing attack when they're healthy. But we've said it multiple times on this pod. I know you've said it yourself, Jay, plenty of times, that running the ball is not going to win you titles in the NFL, especially in today's day and age. Exactly. And looking at Lamar Jackson's numbers, I mean, he's played, based on going off of his 2020 numbers, he's played 3 less games. He's thrown 10 less interceptions. 10 less touchdowns. And he's thrown 4 more interceptions than he did in 15 games last year. And, looking at his rushing numbers, he's rushed, 15 games last year, 12 games this year. He's rushed for 300 less yards, 5 less touchdowns. That screams a bit of a regression right there, from Lamar Jackson. And, unless they undoubtedly, if they didn't, I haven't found it yet on here, whether or not they picked it up. I have to assume they did, because we are in his 4th year, so they would have had to have picked it up before the season this year for his 5th year. But if he doesn't show, if he continues doing what he's doing this year, next year, they got to start thinking about moving on from him, or at least either franchise trade or something like that, because he is a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think that we both agree on that he is a he's talented enough to lead a pro offense. But
is he,
that
though?
being said, I think he is. I mean, he's been on a good team, the last 3 years, and obviously this year, I give him a tiny bit of a pass based on the amount of injuries that the Ravens have suffered, because they've suffered an absorbent amount of injuries. They lost their top 2 running backs realistically before the season started, and that a lot of times, in a run first team, like, you look at the New England Patriots, they're not going to overcome that if they lose Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris before the season started. That's going to really significantly impact the way that they run the offense. And maybe they were asking Lamar to do more this year than he was capable of. And again, that's a flaw of his, but I think he absolutely is a starting quarterback in the league, and will get another shot if he does not sign a long-term deal with the Ravens. But I think if you're, the Ravens organization, you have to start thinking about long-term here. Do we go into the draft after next year to start over again? And will John Harbaugh be there for that? And all this and that kind of thing. You got to start having those tough conversations.
Well, and then the crux of my question basically is: have we seen enough development out of Lamar Jackson's passing attack to supplement, or to take the burden off the running attack and essentially have a more, pass-centric offense instead of more of a run-centric offense? Because the Ravens have made concessions on offense. They've made a deliberate concession to make sure they run the ball more than passing the ball, just because that's what works best for Lamar Jackson. Down the road, that's not going to work anymore. And for me, I don't think I've seen enough of that, development and passing where he can carry that team to a Super Bowl or deep in the playoffs with just his arm. There are going to be times where he's going to get injured, or he's not going to have the mobility. He's going to get older, and he's going to have to rely more on his arm. And at the moment, I haven't seen enough of that in his passing ability to justify a longer, bigger extension. Now, I just Googled it while we are talking. They have officially exercised his 50-year option, so he'll be back for the next year no matter what. But, in the back of the Ravens, front office minds, you got to think about it logically. He hasn't, progressed as a passer as well as we thought he would. He's taken a lot of hits on his body. He's not just a finesse runner. He runs through the tackles and he takes on some big hits. We're starting to see an injury pop up here and there with him. He missed a lot of this year with injuries. Is this going to linger in the future? What is the shelf life on a quarterback that takes a lot of hits, right? We saw it happen with Cam Newton. How quickly do they fall off a cliff? So a lot of things got to be taken into account before you give him that big extension. And if I had to make a decision right now at this moment, and obviously that's not the decision they got to make right now, but right now I wouldn't. Right now I would just franchise tag him, 50-year option or whatever it is, and keep him on the roster as long as possible before I can figure out what my next move is.
Absolutely, I'm there with you on that. Like I said, I think Baltimore needs to have that long, tough conversation to essentially start over again at that position. And that's again talking from a Lamar Jackson standpoint. I think he does get he's only 24 years old right now, going to be 25 in a couple of days. He's going to get another shot somewhere else, no doubt. If he ever hits the free agent market or whatever, he's going to get a trade. There's going to be a trade partner for the Ravens. But from a Ravens organizational standpoint, they had in 2019 they had an amazing run with their offense with Lamar Jackson. Lamar won the MVP. They went nowhere in the playoffs. Last year they had a really good season, but they went nowhere in the playoffs because Lamar Jackson threw them out of it up in Buffalo, which me as a Patriots fan and the resident Bills hater was punching massive air during that game, watching that game unfold. So, he's going to get another shot somewhere else. If I'm the Ravens, I'm not tying my job, my future, my assets, everything to this player. I think it's time that they need to start, whether it's this year or next year, to go into the draft to try to find another, a succession plan. Maybe that's Tyler Huntley at this point. We've seen him play well when he's been out there.
He looks like he can pass a little better.
Yeah, so, maybe it's him. Maybe they have the answer in-house already. And maybe next year, if Tyler Huntley's still there and still playing well, I think he's a free agent. So I think somebody's going to throw the bag at him based on his performances in the games that he's played this year. But you see that happen? There's a chance that Lamar Jackson may be on the bench at the end of his 5th-year option if Huntley's still there and ends up overtaking and the Ravens organization makes a decision to go in a different direction.